You're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Gloria, and I'm Randy Hansen. In today's World News headlines, Senate report details that U.S. torture at secret prisons and embassy security heightened ahead of release. Inciting erosion of trust, a New York Attorney General seeks authority to probe police killings. And in New York City, protests continue over Garner decision with bridge blockade and arena protest. LeBron James and other NBA players wear I Can't Breathe t-shirts. And 1,000 march and block highways in Berkeley protest, and Obama urges vigilance to overcome deeply rooted U.S. racism. And family of Tamir Rice files federal lawsuit over a fatal shooting by police, and UN launches record $16 billion appeal for humanitarian aid, and aid groups ask rich nations to take in Syrian refugees, and U.S. to keep additional 1,000 troops in Afghanistan in early 2015. And Rolling Stone backs off UVA rape report, roommate stands by accuser. GVTV News is broadcast on Grass Valley Television division of Rural County's television network, whose focus is on community in Walma. We also air on NCTV. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. Today's first world news story, the Senate Intelligence Committee, if you want to call it that, is releasing today's portion of its long-awaited report on CIA torture and extraordinary rendition programs under President George Bush. The report marks the first public account of how the CIA abused foreign prisoners in secret prisons overseas. The United States has heightened security in embassies worldwide in anticipation of blowback over its findings. On Monday, White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest said despite the security fears, the Obama administration supports the reported release. Of course. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest said there are some indications that the release of the report could lead to greater risk as posed to U.S. facilities and individuals all around the world. So the administration has taken prudent steps to ensure that the proper security precautions are in place in U.S. facilities around the globe. But that said, this is the last key part that said the administration strongly supports the release of this declassified summary of the report. Report out summarizes the investigation's finding in 480 heavily redacted pages. The full 6,200-page report remains classified. Conclusions include finding CIA issued incorrect claims about how many prisoners it held and subjected to torture, actively avoiding or impeding congressional and federal oversight, even by lying ignored internal critiques, and misled the public in the extent of the abuses and intelligence gained as a result. Kind of sounds like the White House. The report also exposes previously undisclosed torture tactics, including repeatedly drunken prisoners in tanks of ice water, threatening them in one case of buzzing power drill, and another one with a broomstick used for sexual assault. The report concludes the torture techniques provided no major intelligence gains. But that's not what the CIA says. New York City Attorney General Eric Schneiderman has asked the authorities to probe all police killings and unarmed civilians. Schneiderman cited public outcry following the recent grand jury decision not to indict officers involved in the death of Michael Brown in Missouri and Eric Garner in New York. And he said last week, after learning that a grand jury declined to indict anyone involved in her husband's death, Esau Garner has quoted in saying, "Oh my God, are you serious?" Her words reflected more than just how her own deeply personal pain. They reflect a sense of many New Yorkers and many Americans in our justice system does not provide equal justice for everyone, specifically to people of color killed during encounters with law enforcement. That erosion of trust and confidence must be addressed, and it must be addressed now. I'm calling the governor to immediately issue a temporary standing order authorizing my office to investigate the circumstances surrounding cases which unarmed civilians are killed as a result of actions of police officers or a peace officer. Protests continue over the grand jury decision not to indict the New York City police officer for Eric Garner's death. Monday began the sit-in at Verrazano Bridge that blocked morning rush traffic between Brooklyn and Staten Island. Protesters carried signs reading Eric Garner, Mike Brown, Black Lives Matter. Later in the day, dozens of people concluded city council members staged a die-in on the steps of the city hall, and at night hundreds of people gathered outside an NBA basketball game in Barclays Center of Brooklyn, blocking traffic and marching for several hours. Jawali Zoller said, "I think that we have reached a tipping point where people are pissed, and I think as young people, and for the most part, they are peaceful, and they're organized in a powerful way, and I think it's very heartening for me to see it." And Damon Davis said, "I'm out here in solidarity with these people for their struggle. It's the same as it is in St. Louis. A lot of us came down because just like people from New York came down to St. Louis, so we're just standing together with the people." Protests continued long after the game as demonstrators marched into a nearby shopping center and then across the bridge into the streets of Manhattan. Organizers dubbed the protest the Royal Shutdown in reference to the attendance at the game of the British royal couple, Prince William and his wife Kate. In an act of solidarity, players from both teams, including the league's top player LeBron James, wore t-shirts bearing Garner's last words, "I can't breathe." NBA Commissioner Adam Silver was called on players to respect the league's endorsement deals and only wear warm-up attire made by sponsor Adidas. Other cities taking part in the ongoing protest Monday included Berkeley, California, where more than 1,000 people marched in the streets and shut down a highway. A group of protesters also blocked an Amtrak train after marching on a railroad track. Lots of protests out there right now. Lots of organized protests. President Obama has weighed in on the latest outbreak of protests following Eric Garner's decision, playing another race card, speaking to the network BET, or Black Entertainment something. Obama referenced his recent meeting in Ferguson's activists to say that deeply rooted racism will take a long time to defeat. And he said, "What I told the young people who I met with, we're going to have more conversations like this over the coming months, is this isn't going to be solved overnight. This is something that's deeply rooted in our society. It's deeply rooted in our history. When you're dealing with something as deeply rooted as racism or bias in a society, you've got to be vigilant. But you have to recognize that it's going to take some time, and you just have to be steady so you don't get up when we don't get all the way there." Protests are expected to continue throughout the week, including a national march on the White House this Saturday as they fan the flames. Family of slain 12-year-old Tamir Rice was filed a federal lawsuit, civil rights suit against the city of Cleveland and two officers involved in the death. Rice was playing inside a park with a toy gun that was plastic strip removed when the officer pulled up and immediately opened fire. On Monday, Tamir's mother, Maria Rice, spoke out along with family attorney Benjamin Crump and said, "Tamir was a bright child. He had a promising future, and he was very talented in all sports and soccer and basketball and football. He played the drums, he drew, he played video games. He was a great swimmer. The community loved him. He was a helper at the school and at the rec, and you know everybody just loved him. Benjamin Crump said, "This scenario cannot happen again in America. We cannot have children playing cops and robbers on the playground and having police coming in claiming their lives because they were not equipped to deal with an encounter with a kid and a toy gun. They are supposed to de-escalate, not escalate a situation. Everything you see in that video escalates the situation." The Rice family says the officer did not administer first aid to Tamir after he was shot, and that Tamir's 14-year-old sister was tackled and handcuffed after she arrived at the scene. Family wanted the case to go straight to trial instead of before a grand jury. The United Nations has launched a record appeal to meet the needs of tens of millions of people in the humanitarian emergencies worldwide. UN Humanitarian Chief Valerie Amos unveiled the more than $16 billion request and said, "In the plans that we are launching today, a combined 78 million people are considered in need of humanitarian assistance, and we aim to respond to the urgent need of 57 million of them. This does not include the 9 countries in the Sahel and I don't know where it is, somewhere over there. We will launch those appeals in February. We require 16.4 billion and meet the needs in the appeal that we are launching today. Number of people in dire need during 2014 has nearly doubled to a record 102 million from 54 million last year. The UN appeal for increased humanitarian aid comes as a group of 8 organizations has called on rich nations to offer refuge to at least 5% of Syria's 3.2 million refugees, some 180,000 people. The United States will keep an additional 1,000 troops in Afghanistan on top of nearly 10,000 already committed to remain beyond this year. Outgoing Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel announced the move during a visit to Afghanistan. And he said President Obama has provided U.S. military commanders the flexibility to manage any temporary force shortfalls that we might experience for a few months as we allow for coalition troops to arrive in the theater. This will mean a delayed withdrawal of up to 1,000 U.S. troops, so that up to 10,800 troops, rather than 9,800, would remain in Afghanistan through the end of the year for the first few months next year. But President authorization will not change. It will not change our troops' mission or the long-term timeline for our withdrawal. Hagel says the change is temporary, will not change the long-term timeline for withdrawing troops. The announcement comes amidst a surge in Taliban attacks over the past several months. And Rolling Stone magazine has walked back a report about a pattern of sexual assault and impunity at the University of Virginia. The article centered on a student named Jackie who says she was gang raped at a fraternity and then ignored by school officials. On Friday, Rolling Stone issued a statement acknowledging discrepancies in the story and raised questions about its source, saying, "Our trust in her was misplaced." After receiving criticism for appearing to blame a rape accuser, Rolling Stone revised its statement to say the mistakes were its own. The magazine says it did not try to interview the alleged perpetrators out of respect for Jackie's wishes. While several details remain unsubstantiated, the fraternity itself was not denied a sexual assault took place. Jackie's former roommate, Emily Clark, has spoken out in her defense, writing, "While I cannot say what happened that night, and I cannot prove the validity of every tiny aspect of her story to you, I can tell you that this story is not a hoax. Something terrible happened to Jackie at the hands of several men who have yet to receive any repercussions." And that's it for the World News today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon, I could go to space. With the air like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
That's right, it's time for the police spotter and pictures in the blotter, not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. These public records are obtained from daily logs issued from Nevada County law enforcement. Grass Valley Police Department on Sunday, 7:19 a.m., a caller from 500 block of Whiting Street reported vandalism to a vehicle window. 8:18 a.m., a caller from 400 block of Lamarck Court reported a vehicle burglary. Caller then reported getting all of the stolen items back from the suspect. 9:04 a.m., a caller from the hospital reported an out-of-control patient on drugs who was being restrained. 9:12 a.m., a woman from Business 1700 block of East Main Street reported she ran over a man's foot in a parking lot. He did not want medical attention. And 4:47 p.m., a caller from 300 block of Sutton Way reported hearing sounds of violence. It was people at a residence trying to help a person get sober. And Monday, 12:25 a.m., a caller from a water treatment plant in Alta Vista Avenue reported a video alarm was showing a man climbing a fence. The building was found to be secure. 6:16 a.m., an online theft report was made from 200 block of Sierra College Drive, Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Sunday. 9:03 a.m., a caller from 10,000 block of Carrington Lane reported a person throwing garbage. 11:35 a.m., a caller from North Bloomfield Road reported a downed tree blocking both lanes of the road. And 12:19 p.m., a woman from the 14,000 block of Wolf Road reported a vehicle had been broken into. And 1:10 p.m., caller from 19,000 block of Cherry Creek Road reported two men, one with dreadlocks, saying that they were from the DEA and in the area to take down a meth lab. They're very aggressive and seemed to be under the influence of drugs and were driving a truck full of large black plastic garbage bags. They could not be located. 1:24 p.m., caller from 10,000 block of Timber Lane Drive reported a vehicle break-in. And 2:23 p.m., a man from 16,000 block of Perimeter Road reported a man trespassed who was run off the property by a caller's dog. 2:30 p.m., a caller from 19,000 block of Noatak Canyon Way reported loose cattle destroying property. And 2:34 p.m., a caller from 13,000 block of Wolf Road reported vehicles had been broken into with $10 missing. 3:56 p.m., a caller from 14,000 block of Honeysuckle Way reported hearing someone screaming for help. Extra patrols were requested. And 3:57 p.m., a caller from 13,000 block of Wolf Road reported a vehicle had been broken into. 6:19 p.m., a woman was in a hospital who was from 18,000 block of Cooper Road and reported having been choked out by a man. At 7:59 p.m., a caller from 18,000 block of Oscar Drive reported a woman in a physical fight. She was arrested on suspicion of resisting arrest. 9:40 p.m., a caller from 15,000 block of Mountain View Drive reported the person tried to break a door down into the residence and tried to hit her. 10:56 p.m., a caller from Highway 174 and Rattlesnake Road reported a vehicle hit a pedestrian. At 11:02 p.m., a caller from 15,000 block of Shannon Way reported vandalism to a mailbox. 11:32 p.m., a caller from Crescent and Black Oak Drives reported a tree was down and blocking the roadway. And Nevada City Police Department on Friday, 2:47 p.m., a caller from 300 block of Gracie Road reported drug issues at a school and requesting a welfare check on a juvenile who could not be located. And 3:23 p.m., a caller from Commercial Street reported people smoking marijuana in a vehicle and on the boardwalk. No one was located. At 3:27 p.m., a caller from Commercial Street reported two men in a physical fight. And 5:49 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Providence Mine Road reported a man in his vehicle whom he doesn't know refusing to get out. Burglary report was taken. And Saturday, 2:37 a.m., a person sought treatment at a hospital over being hit over the head with a glass bottle at a bar at 300 block of Broad Street. At 8:41 a.m., a caller from 400 block of Railroad Avenue reported vandalism to a vending machine. And 5:34 p.m., an overdose victim from 100 block of Sacramento Street was dropped off at the hospital by people who left in a vehicle before providing any information. Some then came in and provided a name. 8:04 p.m., a caller from Zion Street reported two men physically fighting inside a motorhome. Then one of them was pushing the motorhome down the street. Neither party was cooperative. 11:06 p.m., a caller from 100 block of North Pine Street reported two people running on rooftops. And Sunday, 3:49 a.m., a caller from 700 block of Zion Street reported a man punched in a lawn panel and was taken to the hospital for possible lacerations. He was arrested on suspicion of burglary and vandalism. 9:26 p.m. Caller from 200 block of Broad Street reported a vehicle hit a pedestrian who might be drunk and had been trying to climb on a vehicle. She was okay. And that's it for the blotter today. Now, no thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's local news headlines, free 2-day medical clinic hopes to serve 1,000 patients in need. And in a story, Grass Valley Memorial Auditorium will be transformed into a massive free medical clinic for 2 days in November 2015. For the first time, Grass Valley's free medical, dental, and vision services will be available to anyone in need of health care. All services will be free charge, volunteer-run clinic, which will operate on first-come, first-served basis. November 14th and 15th, organizers hope to provide roughly 1,000 patients with more than $400,000 in free care. Massive effort organized by nonprofit California Care Force will require roughly 350 volunteers and 50 to 60 medical practitioners. With hopes of serving people in need from as far away as Yuba City and Roseville, professional volunteers include physicians, registered nurses, EMTs, licensed vocational nurse and licensed practical nurses, oral surgeons, dentists, hygienists, dental assistants, dental x-ray technicians, ophthalmologists, optometrists, opticians, and acupuncturists, chiropractors, and more. Dental care will include restorative work and complex extractions. California Care Force provides everything for volunteer medical professional needs to perform their job, including vision exam equipment, dental equipment, tools, medicines, exam tables, dental chairs, and even meals for all volunteers. Free eyeglasses are made on site. Based in Roseville, California Care Force and California Association of Oral and Maxillofacial Surgeons began a partnership in 2011 to hold clinics throughout the state. They've been building a growing group of volunteers ever since, said Pamela Congdon, California's Care Force president and volunteer. All professionals are thoroughly vetted, and in the past, clinics have helped connect patients with local services. Care Force is a non-political, non-denominational organization whose mission is simply to provide free health care, dental, and vision care services to inhabitants of California. Since 2011, 5 clinics have been conducted in California. A total of 5,746 volunteers have provided approximately 46,272 services worth over $6 million to more than 15,000 patients in need. The organization is able to deploy clinics from as many as 70 dental stations, 20 medical stations, and 10 vision exam lanes. While many who come to these clinics are uninsured, a large number are underinsured, said Cogden, meaning they can't afford to meet the large insurance deductibles that would lead them to costly care they need. Patients are not asked to provide any paperwork, just an emergency contact number. First time I volunteered at a clinic, I expected to see a lot of homeless people and drug addicts, said Congdon, but there were people there just like me, like my neighbors, soccer moms, laid-off teachers, veterans, elderly. Once people have paid their mortgage and grocery bills, often there's not much left. This is America. It's really, really sad. If you've got good insurance, and you're probably unaware of this whole other world out there of people suffering. Cogden said she typically volunteers at clinics from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m., becomes away energized with the goodwill and the camaraderie. I had a woman put her arms around me and start sobbing with gratitude, she said. She's been in pain and finally got a dental care that she needed. California Care Force is funded entirely by corporate and individual donations, all of which goes towards patient care. Some donations are as small as $5, $10, $100, said Condon. The nonprofit is entirely volunteer-driven with an exception of one part-time staff person. Each clinic around the state faces two critical challenges: lining up the medical professionals willing to donate time and locate sponsors who will help pay the clinic. Grass Valley is no exception. We have expenses for the cost of the venue, food, we need volunteers and patients when possible, supplies, equipment, rental, security, and maintenance, said Compton. Based on our experiences, the clinic costs around $50,000 to $150,000 depending on their locations and service goals. Organizers are hoping Nevada County residents will donate what they can to help their neighbors in need, however small. The sheer number of people who show up is proof that there's real need out there, she said. At past clinics, we've had to turn people away, and surprisingly, they thanked us anyway for caring. One patient came up and said, "Thank you for giving me my dignity back. I don't know how to repay you. I can hardly talk about it without getting choked up." And that's it for today's news. We'll talk to you Friday.